as journalism practice requires. If you've done it properly, you're objective.
Dr. Nwayama, in the face of this war against corruption, do you think the media can be objective based on what he has put forward?
There is no reason why the media should not be objective, because first of all, it's a part of the ethics. You can't set out, to practice as a journalist without being conscious of being objective. But my friend here said he disagreed with me in what I said before, but he didn't quite tell me how and why he disagreed with me. You see, the fact is that, when news of any kind is reported, there must be people who will not totally disagree with you, even if it is the fact. And we mustn't run away from that fact too, okay? There is nowhere in the world where everybody will be happy with the way you have reported a matter, even when it is the accurate fact. So the important thing for the media to do is to be objective, like we have said, is to ensure that whatever you do is in line with the ethics of the profession. If you have done your duty properly, it doesn't matter who feels bad about what you've done. It doesn't matter even if, the highest person in the land by way of position comes and says, well, because you didn't do these things properly, we are not happy with you. There has to be people who, even if they have to die for doing the right thing, it is the price.
So, Mr. Kimberty,
yeah.
What would you say about a situation where a media organization is paid to to cover an event, or to transmit or to write about an event? They are paid for it.
Yes.
How would they, okay, for instance, some of these people who have cases to answer, but the media organization is paid to carry their event.
Yes.
How can that media organization stay objective, even in the face of trying to survive?
Yeah, that's what I've heard, part of the extreme, the challenges I was talking about in my opening. That is extremely difficult for you, to navigate it. A very good example is 234 Next newspaper died naturally because it was stifled, advertisers stifled that media organization of necessary funds when it matters most, because it was pushing too hard on major issues that had to do with corruption, that has to do with so many special investigations.
Isn't that what journalism is
about? Yeah, it's about that,
but
you must know that you must keep afloat. You need to keep afloat.
So are you saying the media has to do one leg in, one leg out?
The moment you have commercialization of news, honestly, that part of the objectivity is almost gone. Because since you commercialize, who pays the pipers? The tunes. You could not expect me, after paying you so amount of money, to go and do XYZ for me. And then you push it down and say, because I want to be objective, I'm going to put a certain part of it that's going to hurt my own interest. Although you could do it, stylishly, but the moment I knew that you are not getting it right, you are not doing my bidding, then of course, I'm going to withdraw my patronage from you. And you and I do know, in the media industry today, you cannot survive without adverts. That's a basic thing, because we do not have what we call a media fund in this part of the world, where these media organizations that are in distress could easily go in there and get a lifeline. Governments bringing AMCON for banks, for aviation. Is there any AMCON for the media organization in Nigeria? That's the question. And so they really need to now survive under these terrible and hard economic realities. And in doing so, they must, one way or the other, pander, to the vagaries of that environment. That is why, in analyzing social responsibility, I had to bring the issue of surveillance and correlation of the environment. Very, very key. Without that, you're not going to move forward.
Very, very important issue here, the commercialization of news. I remember when I first started this business, when I first graduated, you could just go into NTA and invite them to an event that you think is newsworthy. And they would show up there, and you didn't have to pay anything. And then You Have to Survive came along, and no matter what kind of event I was putting up, if I could pay for it, I would get coverage for it, even if it was nonsense. What are your thoughts about this commercialization of news?
It's It's a terrible thing that has happened, and it started in 1994 with government-owned media, broadcast media, following commercialization. They were then forced to do what we in the industry call let them pay. Let them pay it has been detrimental to proper news practice, because as you've noticed, if I have a non-event but I have paid for it, it will be covered. Unfortunately, the challenge now is, how do these broadcast organizations survive outside of LTP? Because they've gotten used to it. The challenge is, how do they survive outside of this? We should then go to what happens elsewhere. They survive through being the media that people want to subscribe to. So, Channels is winning awards. I see that they are relevant, so I want to watch them. They have many more persons watching them than the competing stations, so ordinarily they should get more advertising for that market segment. If that happens, and it should happen, then they can survive without saying, Cadbury, you're having an event, you want us to cover it, pay. So if Cadbury then has an event and invites Channels, and Channels says, no, we don't think this event is good for, newsworthy for our audience, they won't cover it on their own. If they think it's newsworthy, they will cover it on their own. So we probably need to then institute some of the other things that have happened. The audience bureau of circulation, the viewership, Nielsen ratings, that says this station has a higher rating than this other station. Therefore, you advertiser, this is where you should be going to. We need some of those institutional structures that would help to direct decision-making objectively, so everybody knows what to do. But it's a challenge for all of us.
Okay, as we wind down, there's one question that will be a compound. All of you can weigh in on it, and then we'll go. How can the Nigerian media be committed to its defense of the rule of law? But tied up with this, it most, I say, social media is a power in the hands of the public to create these exchange and create internal validity. Then the power to triangulate views in the print, broadcast, and social media will help to create internal validity. But in the face of that, how can the Nigerian media defend the rule of law? So we begin with you.
Well, I think first of all, it has to do with institutionalization, these institutional frameworks. What is the role of NBC, for example? Is it doing it well? How many radio stations have been sanctioned if they aired? The same thing with National Nigerian Press Council. In fact, how many people have been sanctioned by the Nigerian Press Council? The newspapers who have aired. Have you heard of any? Then the other adjuncts of the regulatory body, the NUJ, the ethic committee of NUJ, as a journalist be sanctioned for any infraction, just like NBA would delete your name from the NMA would do. We still have this kind of challenge to us. And another thing is, how we're moving, the regulation of moving, it's all commerce affair. It shouldn't be. There should be a regulation that journalism media is a profession. You come in, these are the standards, you cannot go below. You cannot go and read history, come in, work as a reporter, and then do your bidding. And then you just walk away. No. Go to NIJ, let you not be properly, and will not give you a certificate that you can practice. In moment we find out you are not doing well, we can withdraw. We can withdraw your license, just as we do know that. Once we have sanity within that perspective, I think we're really going to get it right.
Well, sometimes I think most of us will enjoy the theory of some of these issues. But I think we have hit the nail on the head. The issue here is that, except you are on the side of government, Otherwise, you'll be suffering. No, I don't mind what kind of business you're doing today. Even those of us in the civil society were suddenly discovered because the foreign funders that support the civil society organizations have said, well, you are not democratic, everything should be okay in your country, so we are not giving you money. And if there is any support, we better give it to first ladies of some states and then first lady of the president. So the civil societies are also having their own challenges, just like the media is having their own challenges. But the point I want to make here is that, when Buhari came up with the change mantra, I was so excited. But I realized that the capacity to deliver on that is a challenge because one, he can't work alone, and two, he has to understand that, to effect corrections or the change as it were on many of these areas, you have to do it through legislation. So what we need to do, whether to address the issue of maybe a journalist not operating properly or maybe not coming from the right background and what have you, all of that can be addressed through proper legislation. So, and the way to do it is for a government that is in power at the center, to have a common program, a common policy. If the president said this is what I stand for, then the entire party will buy into it. And then they begin to come up with, various, kind of committees, if you put it that way, that begin to work out strategies and plans on how to effect these changes here and there in different sectors. As you see us today, there is a great challenge in Nigeria. Nigeria is actually sitting on a time bomb. You are talking about the media now. Go to any other sector, there are challenges.
All right.
It's good that you brought out the social media perspective. Social and online media represent an additional dimension to the media issue, and most importantly, some of the confusion is arising from social media. Everybody thinks he's now a journalist, everybody reports news and all that. The advent of social media places even more challenge, yet responsibility on traditional media. You will find that people read something on Facebook and all that, and then they want to tune to channels, they want to wait for the next day's newspaper to confirm, which means we need to go back to first principles. Why do people buy newspapers? Because we have the practice of verification, the principle of verification that says before a story is published, you know that the Guardian has 2, 3, 4 people who have gone through this thing and they have verified it to be true before they publish it. That doesn't happen on social media. So it means also an opportunity for traditional media to re-establish the fact that they are credible, that they have processes that people can rely on over time. The institutions need to work. The press council, we've been at war with the press council, so it's been comatose, it hasn't taken off. But the MBC should do its job. The Guild of Editors should do its job. The Nigerian Union of Journalists should do its job. We need an ombudsman. Whether it's the press council or another one, we need an ombudsman to say, these people are not practicing ethically. A buffer between the media and the society that is respected, that is independent, and that is credible. That way, people can begin to trust what they find in the media.
Thank you very much. We've been speaking about the role of the media and the anti-graft war. We had Chido Mwakama, a media scholar. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Martin Nwayanwu Press, President of the Leadership Watch. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Kazim Akinreti, Assistant Director, News Voice of Nigeria. Thank you for coming.
It's a pleasure.
So, all right, so we'll be back in a moment. Please don't go away.